right, so one question that I get asked pretty often that I kind of take for granted and sort of assume that people have a little more knowledge about than they might when I'm working with new clients on their diet or whatever, just giving advice, is a lot of folks don't really know what I'm talking about when I talk about their macros. So it's just a way of talking about your protein, carbs, and fat. So macro is short for macronutrient, and I apologize, guys. I've been really sick, so I have like no voice right now, but I wanted to create this video and put this out there because I'm testing out some new equipment mainly. So macro stands for macronutrient. It just really means protein, carbs, and fat. So when I say like, what are your daily macros? All I'm really asking is how much protein, how much carbs, and how much fat are you consuming? So that's really all we're talking about there. Now, there are lots of different ways to calculate what your macros should be. We can start with sort of the classic way, which is like, okay, to get you into a caloric deficit based on your daily activity levels, your height, your weight, your age, your gender, all of that stuff, to sort of calculate what your basal metabolic rate is, back out from there what you should be consuming in order to be in a deficit or surplus, take those total calories and then break it down into a percentage of macros from there. You can do that. Another way you can do it is to start sort of with protein intake. So if you say in general, 1 gram of protein per pound of your desired body weight is a target, we can start there. So we might say if you're a 200-pound man and you want to be 180 pounds, we know that we should be consuming 180 grams of protein in a day. This is simplifying a lot of things, but 180 grams of protein, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories. So we would say 180 times 4. Okay, and that gives you what? 400 plus 320 is 720 calories from protein in a day. And then we might say we want your macro split to be 40% protein, 30% carbs, and 30% fat. The calories you're consuming to be those percentages. So we would take the remaining calories and calculate out what your carbs and fats should be. So that's another approach, and it really just depends on your goals. Then there's all kinds of different ways to break down when you're consuming certain macros throughout the day. If you want to taper your carbs down and increase your fats, that's one approach that we like to use. You can just take your total macros, divide it by the number of meals in a day, and say, okay, each meal needs to have whatever, 40 grams of protein, 30 grams or 50 grams of carbs, whatever. So you can do that. There's all sorts of ways. And then there's the flexible dieting route where you just say, okay, your total macros per day are this, and you have a number of protein, carbs, and fats, and you use a tracking mechanism like MyFitnessPal. And using MyFitnessPal, you just sort of track what you eat throughout the day, and you always know kind of where you are in terms of your macro usage. So you might get to dinner and be like, oh shit, I've only got a little bit of protein left, I've got no carbs and a little bit of fat. So you would then know for dinner that night, you have to consume basically protein and fat and no carbs. And then the next day you would sort of adjust to say, okay, I ran out of carb macros by the end of the day, so let me eat less carbs throughout the day so that I can get some carbs at dinner. And that's sort of a flexible dieting approach. It's less about what you're eating, but more about falling within those macro ranges. You could be eating 2, 3, 5 meals a day. That's less important if it fits your macros, flexible dieting philosophy, than hitting, several small meals throughout the day structured in a specific way. So again, macros, don't get overwhelmed when you hear that. All that, if I ask you what your daily macros are, I could just as well ask you what's your daily protein, fat, and carbs. It's the exact same thing. It's just a shortened version of the term macronutrient. All right, so that's macros. I'm gonna cut this because we're at 5 minutes. I apologize for my messed up voice and my ability to barely breathe. You've probably picked up on that a little bit too, but wanted to create this video because I've gotten that question a lot. Anyway, that's all I got. Peace. Love you guys. Until next time.